Hey everybody, I am Tori Hartman, and boy, has this been an experience. I'm sitting here with Essie Mensa. She is my marketing director. She is also the reason this whole summit happened, if I'm being honest with all of you, because she has worked tirelessly to get incredible guests. I mean, you've way beyond the sort of thing and said, oh my gosh, it is like herding cats. I know, you'll hear me say that throughout the festival. I think I had the idea about a year ago that I wanted to gather some of my tribe, some readers, card readers, people behind the scenes, people involved in learning, people who wanted to learn, and people at all different levels with card reading. Because I think we wanted to take out the woo and make it more about you. And that is really what this entire experience has been. And what I want to do in this conversation, and Essie's going to help me, because when I tell you, by the time you're listening to this room that I'm in will no longer exist in my life, as I've sold my home and I'm moving from California to the East Coast. So I'll be living on the East Coast by the time you're watching this. And it's really an interesting journey through all of this change, how much I've learned, and what this journey has been about in this last year, from a lot of the launches we've done, but also watching the Chakra Wisdom cards have a life of its own and have so many people love it. And that brings me to the people in the summit who have been extraordinary, everybody. I have to tell you, I really encourage you not to miss one single interview, because there were so many different things I learned, and I know you're going to ask me about that. So I want to invite Essie. I invited Essie because I just thought, Essie, I'm just too tired for you to point a camera at me. She said, okay. She said, I just have to fix my makeup. Of course, she's gorgeous. She doesn't need much. But the point is that I've asked her to just kind of guide me along to make sure we make the right points, and because I kind of go on anyway, and so it'll be very helpful. What we've done is Essie printed up the schedule for all of the speakers, and so what I want to do is just give you a little taste, I think, of my experience. So I'm going to kind of turn the questions over to her. We're going to make it more like a dialogue, and the reason I want to do this is I want you to get the sense that every single speaker, in essence, for me, it was about a dialogue. It was never about really an interview. I mean, there are a few where you could tell people were a little bit less comfortable being interviewed, but that all of them had a very special experience, and I know I did with them. And I'm different from this summit, actually.
Yeah. One thing that I really liked is how we have such a variety of speakers. Like, for those of you who don't know, I actually, before I started working for Tori, I knew nothing about card reading. I didn't know anything about New Age, and somehow it's worked. And obviously now I know a lot more, but I just thought I'd be a beginner still. So one thing I love about all the interviews or the conversations you did is that there's such a wide variety that it can be for either a beginner or someone who's been doing this for a while or someone who's been doing this for years. There's just so much good knowledge and information in there that will benefit everybody, no matter what level.
And that's true for me too. I have to tell you. I mean, some of the interviews for me were like, what? I mean, all of them I gleaned something, but some of them gave me such great reading techniques that I'm now applying to my readings. So I have to tell you, and I've been doing this a long time. Whether you're a tarot reader or an oracle reader, what came out of this overall, if I have to, give an umbrella to everybody, I think the biggest thing that I learned is the change in how people are reading cards now. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing about card reading now is it's no longer just predictive. It's a collaboration. It's a collaboration between you and the person reading you, or you and your cards. And the cards hold no value on their own without you. You bring the life to them, and every single expert felt that. Every single expert felt that what those images brought out in you were the key, not just, I've got the Voyager deck, or I've got Chakra Wisdom. So what we're going to do right now, just to let you know, because Essie likes when I make a point, so I'll say this, make sure you get to the point. So what we're going to do is we're going to run down who was in the summit, and I'm going to give you a little bit of feedback, thoughts on what each person brings to the table, so that you can, for yourself, kind of determine wow, yeah, I'm going to watch that one, I'm definitely going to watch that one. But I know that the whole summit will be made available for you throughout. And that's another conversation. But let's start with whatever you want to.
Okay, sure.
Where do you want to go, Wesley? Take me there.
Okay, so let's start with Colette Baron-Reid, who you know I'm a big fan of, and I was really excited
that was something
to have her join us. So why don't you tell us about that? Where you guys were more like girlfriends. You weren't even. It wasn't even like an interview, really. It was like girlfriends hanging out.
I'm going to get a little misty as I say it, because one of the things that for me happened with Colette was I remember her first book. One of her first books. It was called Remembering the Future, and that struck me as such a profound title. And she's gorgeous, of course. She's got this like very exotic look.
Very exotic, yeah.
Here's this beautiful woman on this picture, and I didn't realize that was her on the cover. The point is that Colette, what started as, well, let's see if she'll do it. Because you never know when you're doing a summit. Even though. Right now, and it's been, the Chakra Wisdom cards have been #1. There's been so much that has been coming. I've been asked to keynote at things.
And this was our first time reaching out to her camp. We've never tried to communicate
with many people.
Actually, with a lot of people.
Yeah.
We've never tried to communicate with so many of the speakers, their team.
And I didn't know a lot. I mean, I think the thing that happened was I know of them, and we know people in common. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, Colette, I knew my publisher, Joe, and some of you will hear that interview later, went to Colette's wedding. Mm-hmm. So there are people who knew each other. So one of the things you'll find is that I think as you get more and more into this work, you'll find that your tribe shows up. And it's really amazing how it's like, I always believe that coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. Yeah. So I always feel like the same people, the same names start coming up, and if you hear it 3 or 4 times, you go, oh, right, who is that person? Like, who are they? So Essie had reached out to Colette, and one of the things that happened was that I said, oh, well, let's see what happens. We were interviewing other people, and Jill, who works with Colette, emailed back and said, well, I don't know, Colette's in the middle of things, and I'm not sure. And then Essie said, well, they want to know, will they mail or not mail, because it's Telesummit, you do mailings. And I said, you know what, just tell her that you just want to put these 2 people in the room. Yeah. And see what happens. And we don't have to make any decisions, there's no offers, there's no, So by the time we got together, and Essie was more nervous than me now. Make sure the background's good. I'm like, I've got no furniture in my house. I live in an echo chamber. I have a big box next to me when I'm doing the interview. It's like, it was not pretty. But what was absolutely amazing was she gets on, and we just instantly connected. I mean, and I have to tell you all this. It was like meeting a sister that I didn't know I had. Yeah, and I agree. It was, for me, the interview was so extraordinary because you saw the collaboration of energies. I think if I could say to you one thing about this summit is start to look at how the energies mix and don't mix. Mm-hmm. And you'll see how some people, were really, we mixed, some we didn't, and that's okay. But we learned a lot from each other. I think I progressed through this summit a lot. Yeah. But I will say, she held up the Chakra Wisdom cards, and she said, because of you, I'm not doing Chakra Wisdom, and I love your deck. And I was like, oh my God. I felt like that was amazing. And it was just...
And it's interesting, too, because her card deck and your card deck are like neck and neck in the ranking.
That was kind of the thing. She said, I'm sorry to tell you this morning, I bumped you out of #1. And then I looked at and went, yeah, but I bumped you out of #1 in the other one. And we were all laughing, And it was, what was lovely is that, as you start to do this work, and I talked to my agent Chris about this today, which I'll cover in a bit, but, as you start to do this work, the stakes get higher. Yeah, they just do.
I agree.
And you have to find the people that you trust and that like you. And listen, not everybody's gonna like me. We were talking about this the other day, and I was saying years ago now. And by the way, she's a brilliant actress, Jodie Foster, right? Brilliant actress. But I guess I was about 18 years old. I waited on her, and she was mean to me when I was waitress. And I thought, I don't like Jodie Foster. But you know what? I don't know her. She's brilliant. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the thing is that people make assumptions about us based on energy, right? So as you come into the summit, I invite you to read the energy with it. Read between the lines, and that's what a lot of people did. And these interviews, I have to tell you, that's what a lot of people talked about. Colette and I talked for 2 hours. And finally we were like, she was like, basically, I gotta go eat dinner, right? We were like, I gotta go out in life, I got other things to do. But I don't think either one of us expected, but it was one of those things at the end we were saying, oh my gosh, because I'm moving to Asheville. She said, oh my gosh, my husband and I are looking to buy a house there. I mean, they talked about it, and I said, come visit. And she said, yeah, let's do something. And so by the end, it wasn't just that we were going to do an event. It was that I really felt I'd come home. And so it
was a long time coming.
It was
like eventually you two were going to get together, and it was nice to see it finally happen.
And I want you to look at this too. And what Essie's saying is so important. It was a long time coming. And she's worked so hard for the last 2 years. But I want to say this too. I hope that you will look at this Intuitive Festival as a homecoming for you. Mm-hmm. As you may not like that interview, but you might like another one. Set this time for you. Take this time for you to watch these interviews and watch your own intuition grow. Trust your hunches, trust your vibes. Everybody was extraordinary. And Colette and I, we let off the telesummit with her because I think it was like that was the homecoming for me. And I hope that the rest of this will be a homecoming for you as well. And who else
So then there's James Wanless, the OG.
Oh gosh,
original groundbreaker.
So we were like, yeah, he's an OG. And I've known James a few years. You'll hear the story. I don't want to tell you how we met because it's such a magical story. But I've known him a few years, and I think he brought up a lot of great points. He talked about the millennials not just being people in their 20s, but those of us in our 50s and 60s, and I thought that was extraordinary because I find that there's no age on exquisite. Mm-hmm. And he gave some great tips on how to look into his cards, his Voyager Tarot. And I think that the biggest thing is he came over to my house, so we did it live.
We all met him.
Everybody met him. And, here's this guy in his late 70s, and he's as young as anybody. And so it was very exciting to see someone who is personally always effervescent and always, I want to say, I don't know the word right now, but it's like viable, relevant.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
And I think
I loved his energy.
Didn't you though? And I think his energy also reminded us that you're relevant at any age.
Oh, exactly.
There was no age to relevancy, and I think that was a very important lesson because a lot of people were really younger than me. But he was wonderful, and we read his Voyager Tarot, and he gave some 5 tips on being a reader. Don't miss that one. Who was next on the schedule?
We had
Chrissie, oh my gosh. Okay, I met Chrissie in London a few years ago through Watkins, my publisher. She has a Guardian Angel deck. Mm-hmm. Now, there's so many angel decks out there, everybody, and I thought, okay, let's see what this one's going to be. I thought she was going to be a little bit woo. If I'm being honest, she was fabulous because she described her deck in a way that I finally understood it, about all the archangels and how they brought messages. So she was really someone who brought to me the idea of guardian angels and the messages from them. She did a reading on me too that was very accurate. So did Colette early on. Later on, but I want to say Chrissie was and is a very well-respected teacher in the UK, and her guardian angel deck is really extraordinary. I have it. I did not know what to do with it. Because I'd look at it and go, okay, talk to me, and it wasn't talking to me. And then she, I talked to her and I went, I gotta pull these out.
Because then it became alive.
And I think that's something that's important, is that my vision also was that people's decks would come alive in your heart. And Colette talked about her new deck. James, he talked about Voyager and how that came alive. So it's a very interesting journey of not only were we talking about techniques, but we were talking about bringing life to the decks. So Chrissie was fantastic. Don't miss it if you're interested in learning about guardian angels. And a lot, I gotta tell you, she tranced me, if you know what I mean by trancing. She started talking and all of a sudden I went into this angel trance. Fabulous experience to learn her tonality. If you get a chance to learn her tonality and go into card reading with angels, fabulous. I recommend that. That was a great conversation too. Who's next?
I think you made a really good point though, because it just goes to show, because everyone has these notions about what each card reader is going to be like, and then you get in the actual interview with them and they turn out to be something totally different, or a lot more magical than you expected.
Yeah,
and so that's why I think it's important that people watch them all to really see that, maybe what you thought is not what it really is.
And something else you're bringing up that's important is sometimes we think, I don't like that person. Mm-hmm. And I've said, I don't like that person. Then I watch them and I go, I really like them.
Yeah.
And so I think the thing is that sometimes there's an envy of what they're doing. Like we feel less than because somebody else is doing what we want.
Yeah,
so we push it away and we go, I'm not going to look at that. But I invite you to even listen to some of the people that you might go, that's not for me. Because sometimes those are where the pearls are, in the places you think, nah, that's not there. So that was a really interesting thing. What we were striving to do on the first day is really give you a good balance of some different people. There's a wide variety on day one, and she did it. So she'd be like, she said, okay, I'm going to do the schedule. What do you want to do? I said, you just do it.
So that's a good segue for wide variety, because the next person is Jo Lal.
So Jo, and of course, she's been saying all along, we should just do an ad for Starbucks, because all I have here are Starbucks cups, so I keep drinking the tea.
So do I.
And we're just drinking the tea.
I'm trying not to be tempted.
You can, it's fine. We're very casual around here. So Jo Lal is the publisher at Watkins Publishing. She's the one who brought the Chakra Wisdom cards to life. She championed it at the house. And I did make one little error in the first thing I said to her, which was I said, well, I love Jo, because the first thing she said to me was, actually that wasn't the first thing. The first thing she said to me was, I've watched all your videos and I love your work. And I thought, I've got to work with this woman. Now the second thing she said, which is what I said was the first thing in the interview, was, would you like a cappuccino? That's my girl. I was like, I'm working with her. She had her priorities together. And we talked about, with Jo, I talked a lot about what a publisher does, and she gave you the rundown. She also talked about
behind the scenes.
Yeah, things you don't know.
Yeah.
Things you don't know if you're not in it. And also how the business has changed. Mm-hmm. And we talked a little bit about our collaboration and how we met. And I think that was a very interesting interview if you're looking to be published, or you're interested in finding out more information about Watkins. They're the oldest mind, body, spirit publisher in the world. A lot of people think Hay House is. Hay House is very popular, but what I want to tell you, which you might not know, is, and I talked about this in Chris's interview, which will come up later, Jo Lal actually was the person who helped open Hay House in the UK. So she launched Hay House in the UK, and she worked with all of these speakers.
So she really knows what she's talking about.
She was at Colette's wedding. So that was the, there was, and it was funny because, as you are probably already aware, all of these were pre-recorded because I was going to be, moving. But one of the things I want to say to you is that I literally interviewed Jo the same day I interviewed Colette. So it was kind of like this, the synchronicity of the two people.
Yeah. And then we have Hentz, the lovely Hentz.
Is that day one? That's all on day one?
No, we're done day one.
So
we're on to day two.
Okay, day two. All right.
So that's it for day one.
So Hentz, I'd like to say, was a big surprise for me. Because I didn't know her at all. We had, Kimasabi Essie did the work. She had approached John Holland, and John was his schedule. Simon was like, it's not working, he's doing these events. Why don't you talk to Hentz? We both looked at each other, who's Anne? Well, Anne does his radio show a lot. And I got the story of how they met today when I interviewed her, but Anne was remarkable. I walked out, she really knows tarot.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something, some of the things she offered, one of the things that really hit me, I'll give you one little tidbit because I don't want to ruin the whole thing, but one little taste is that when you're looking at court cards, look at the direction they're facing. Are they into you or are they looking away? And I thought that was really interesting.
She goes into detail about that in the interview.
And she really talks about the cards, and her knowledge of the cards really, I've got to be honest with you all, I was like, well, that's actually an interview I want to watch again because there was so much she said that I want to go back and get it. And you'll notice at the beginning of that interview, I'm so embarrassed because I'm yawning a lot, right? But that's how spirit starts moving through me. So I was going, and I busted myself, in the minute, like, oh, Anne, I gotta tell you, that's just how, like, I'm getting, the energy moves through me. And she said, oh, okay. And she's a lovely person, and I would call her, I would say she comes from academia. She wrote technical manuals, that's her background, but she met John when they were both starting out, and I'm not going to tell you too much about that because she'll tell the story. So don't miss Anne Hentz. Great knowledge on the cards themselves.
And then there's Dr. Judith Orloff.
Dr. Orloff is a surprise to all of us because this was her first card deck. This was her first, I want to say intuitive deck. She has another deck, but this is her, what's it called again? We wrote it down. It's intuitive. We changed the title, so the right title will be in the list. But anyway, it's based on her book, her best-selling book. That she's an international New York Times bestseller. But it was fascinating because here's this woman who's a PhD. She's a psychiatrist. She, medical background, and she uses tarot in her practice. And so she created this card deck for people to really look at their issues and help them discover, uncover, discard what's going on with them. That was a wonderful interview because it will give you insight into what her card deck is about and how it came to be and how she uses it too, which was great. Great ideas. I gave her an idea too, so you'll see in that when you watch that interview. It was really good.
And then, actually, I believe Dax is also a doctor, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Mm-hmm. Was he next?
Yeah, so from one doctor to another doctor.
Now, Dax Carlisle is, he and I have kind of circled one another for years. I knew who he was. I hadn't met him before. He was the founder of the Tarot Guild and still is. He also is a founder of a new angel, I want to, forgive me because I'm not going to get it right, but it's an angel group. And one of the things he really talks about is, and this was what he kept bringing it back to, is focusing on how to make money, thinking of the business side.
Growing your business.
Growing your business. But I kept bringing him back to tell me more about those angel numbers. So he did a lot on angel numbers, everybody, which was fascinating. And we came up with an interesting way. When you see those numbers on the clock all the time, 207, we came up with a way to interpret that using the tarot. So check out that interview for that. It was a fascinating...
Like numbers that keep coming up in your life.
And how they're angel numbers. He also did a bit with the court cards because I asked everybody that I could about the page because I was fascinated. And we got a lot of different information about it, which was great.
And then there's Kim Arnold.
Oh my gosh. Another surprise for me. I met Kim in the UK, I guess last year. She came to one of my events. I was speaking on chakra wisdom at a bookstore, Atlantis Bookshop in London. And she came, and she was one of the people in the audience. And she's tough. Kim's not she's not a pushover. You know what I mean? She's going to be like, you better tell it to her straight. So it was great because after the event, she said, I've heard a lot of speakers, and that was by far the most fun I had. At a card reading event, I learned a lot, and I said, wow, that's great. And she has a tarot festival, a tarot, I want to say a gathering in the UK every year, and it's quite popular. And she was extraordinary because she really talked about how to read the cards. She gave some insight. She even did a reading for you and
I make a guest appearance.
Yes. I went, Essie, come here, stop sending emails, come here. She's like, okay. So Essie came over and I said, now do the same reading for her because what Kim did was she taught us how to find through numerology our tarot card and our tarot card for the year. So she did some year predictions. So you'll learn how to do that through her interview. It was good. And our things were different, that's why I wanted to do that because I'm kind of the guinea pig, so to speak. So she did mine and I said, we should read another person, as he was there, so that we can see the difference, that there are
contrast.
Actually, yeah, and there actually are differences. It's, because sometimes you'll look at it and go, well, you can say that to anybody, but no, you can't. You'll see that it's actually different and it addresses different things, which was great.
And then the next is, I guess you could say, one of the most mind-blowing experiences we had when we went to Malibu.
Oh, wow.
Interview Leigh McCloskey.
Leigh McCloskey from Dallas, if y'all remember. I remember. Dun, 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 dun. I was singing the theme all the way out, We drove out to Dallas and we drove to Malibu. I'm driving to Dallas tomorrow, so it actually makes sense. I'm going to be going through on my way home to Asheville. It's interesting.
Asheville, yeah.
So actually, I was singing the theme to Dallas all the way out, and they were like, anyway, that was an extraordinary experience because we really talked about, and Essie's having to edit it because there were so many things that we talked about, but one of the big things, there were 2 points that I thought were fascinating. One was, we talked about the circle reading, which was in there.
Yes.
And then the other thing that I think was interesting was, of course, his library is mind-blowing. He's painted every inch of this room. It's a spiritual room, and it is
3D
as well. That was trippy. He didn't mean for it to be, and it is. And the entire room, even books were painted. So it was.
You'll see that in the video, and it's really.
It was
really mind-blowing to see.
And I think we all walked out going, "What happened?" Because it was one of those.
Because we've never seen anything like that before.
No, I never had. And he has a book. I said, "What's this?" It's on a pedestal, so that you'll see a short interview about it. And that book was his original Book of Shadows that he did as a. Did he do it as a prop? I can't remember what he did.
I don't remember, but I know it's been used. It's been used on I won't say it, but popular TV shows
and the biggest
and big rock band,
biggest one in the world. So that was kind of interesting. And Leigh's, of course, he talks a lot as an actor. Mm-hmm. And so coming through that place of, stepping into it, don't take this the wrong way, my dad was an actor. Because actors tend to go, oh, it's, bringing it in. And I said, okay, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. And he was really able to, if you will, take that direction and describe the energy of stepping into the esoteric energy and the spiritual energy of channeling and being with your angels and reading cards. So that was an extraordinary experience.
And he's a fantastic artist as well.
His work is extraordinary, and he does have a deck. He has a major arcana deck, and you talked about that too.
And then Mel Carlile, back on the, behind the
scenes guy. Now, it was really funny because Mel, no relation to the other Carlile, by the way, Dax, they're unrelated. But Mel Carlile, he's been doing the oldest mind, body, spirit show in the world, since it's been in existence since '71. He came along a little bit later. He told the amazing story about how he met his wife and married her very shortly after meeting, which is a great story. But it was wonderful because the first thing he said was, because it's, I said, now, Mel, you've worked with so many card readers. Like, no. Like, thinking, okay, this is gonna take, where am I going? Oh no, this is terrible. I go, well, you've broken a lot of card readers. Nope. I said, well, I was there. He said, but that's because you're you.
Yeah.
And he made a point, which was that the work of the MBS festival, and when you go to this festival, you feel completely safe. Mm-hmm. I can't explain it. I've been to other ones where you feel like, please don't put your chi on me. Please. I tell the story. I know I told you one time I was walking down an aisle and this person said, let me help you with your chakras. I go, don't touch my chakra. So sometimes you feel like invaded in this work. And Mel is very much about protecting people and being a champion for so many people. And he's done this for so many years. And I think he doesn't have a lot of readers. And he made that point. He said he didn't have a lot of readers because it was about an energy, a community gathering. And it wasn't just about a reading, it was about people coming together. And so that, of course, Essie's smiling because she knows that's what I talk about a lot, about the idea of community.
Yeah.
And finding our tribe, finding people that get us, that we love to work with, and
sharing insights and talking. It's very different when you get to speak with like-minded people versus people who don't know anything about
people who are I think what I want to say is people who have yet to discover the power of community. I think that a lot of people,
that's a really good way of putting it.
I think that there's so many, and I've had challenges in late with some business people that I've been working with, and we all have that. It's not like we won't have challenges.
Yeah.
It's more that we get the tools to deal with them when they come along. And I think that's the biggest thing. So, I think it's just that there's people that just haven't learned these skills yet, and when we learn them, our life changes, and that was extraordinary. So Mel was really interesting because you got to see the guy and how he picks people, and that was interesting. I said, how do you pick people? And he told me, so watch the interview. Oh, turn that off. Sorry, see, this is so on top. There you go. Here, hand it to me, I'll turn it off entirely. See, this is, you know, people just dialing on in. Okay, so it's off. It's off everything. You know when they say turn off your cell phone?
You didn't get the memo.
I lost the memo. It's probably in my email. You saw my email. Okay. So
next we have another OG, Mary Greer.
Wow. Mary Greer was one of the first I did, and it was really interesting because I think she was quite shocked because I said to her, oh yeah, and I have your card deck, and she looked at me like I had grown 2 heads because she's never done a deck, right? She never did a card deck. But what I meant was, at the time that I got all her books, and I don't know who did it, I can't remember, and somebody will email me now. Somebody did a deck where you color your own deck. You paint your own deck, and there came with crayons and stuff, and it was great. And so at the time I was studying Mary Greer's books, I was coloring my own deck. So when I said to her, yeah, I had your deck, she was like, for a moment, and I just went, oh, I forgot who it was who did that one, and then I just kept going on. But she was extraordinary. Mm-hmm. She told me and taught me how she puts stories together with the cards, how to weave. When you have a 3-card spread, how to make sense of all 3 of them and have them tell you a message. That was extraordinary. She is probably one of the best known tarot card readers and teachers in the world. She's done a lot of tarot summits. And getting to bring her into this one, you know, she does a lot of live teaching, was really, I think, in my opinion, a coup. She has tons of books out there, and she really taught me a lot about ways to put, you know, readings together. And she talked about her newest thing, which is cartomancy, which is her new study, and she's always on to a new study.
Yeah. I remember you saying she revealed a lot of techniques that are just not widely known. So that's what's really interesting about that.
She was great. She was great. She was early on in my recording of the summit. And there's no rhyme or reason in a sense of how we did it. We just tried to balance as best we could.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like, oh, this person's more important than this one. It was more like, well, these people maybe fit together. Mm-hmm. But Mary Greer was extraordinary. She was just everything and then some. All that in a bag of chips, tell you right now. As they say, crisps in the UK.
And then we have Robert Camp.
Robert was a breath of fresh air for me. He is not a reader, per se. In fact, we discovered right before the interview that he lives in Asheville. So, of course, half our interview we're talking about Asheville. But what he did, which was very interesting, was he developed a system, your destiny cards. And it is basically all mathematical. Mm-hmm. Everyone is a card of the regular playing card deck. Mm-hmm. And he talked about the differences in his books. He even did a reading for Essie, and she wasn't there.
I am. You guys are talking about me, I wasn't there. No, but they were great readings. He compared me to a really big name celebrity. That was very.
They have the same card.
I was very honored to get that reading. So that was.
And I think it was true because what he said in that was that some people are the people that facilitate messages being brought forward.
Yeah.
And that was really
They deliver.
So it was a jack of clubs.
Jack of clubs.
And
King clubs.
King of clubs.
So you got 3.
Queen of hearts.
Queen of hearts, and then 3
of hearts.
Yeah.
So it's so what he does is based on that, he then tells you what your destiny path is.
Yeah.
Now, what makes it more interesting is you have a yearly destiny and a next year destiny. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to let you all watch the video to find out all about what he said about my last year and the next year, and for you to find out ways to get your own destiny number. That was phenomenal and you'll find out also I had discovered the original book that his work was based on over 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So sorry to buy it. Okay. It's great.
And then we have a person you know very well, Chris Wold.
I keep mentioning him, my agent, and that was an extraordinary conversation. Actually, that was the very last interview I ended up doing. No, second to last.
Second last.
But it was really. It was extraordinary because Chris and I just like each other so much.
Yeah.
You know, and he was the reluctant agent, I called him. He said I was like the runaway bride. He just said, "You're my agent, come back. You're my agent, come back." So just so you know, he was not an agent when this whole thing started.
Right.
He introduced me to Joe Lal. He talked about his experience in the business. And something that was really extraordinary, and Joe said this in her interview, and so did Chris, and I'll underline it here, that they both said, if you want to get an agent, make sure they know the industry you're in. You don't want an agent just to have an agent.
You can't just have a generic, or you shouldn't rather just have a generic.
Well, it will work for you.
Yeah.
You know, you can get it. Listen, I had an agent for years who didn't like me or my work. And I ran into her a couple of years ago when I had met Joe and sold the Chakra Wisdom cards. I met that old agent who had been my agent, and I said, "Hi, I hadn't seen this woman in 15 years." And she's like, "Oh, hi, I'm in a meeting. Good to see you." And I thought, you know, I still don't like her, and she still doesn't like me. And you know what it is when I say I don't like her? It's oil and water. You know, have you ever had somebody around you
oil and water.
It's not that you don't like the person, it's that you don't like them.
Yeah.
They're not someone
your
that you're
personalities just don't.
and why bother? I've spent so many years trying to, you know, push a boulder up a hill, and all I do is get hit in the head with it. That this was the interview with Chris. I think you'll really see insight into how magical our relationship is and what it took for us to get there. And he said we both kind of acknowledged that a few times he and I, because he's an Aries, I'm a Sag, so you can imagine those fire signs. So a few times he was like, "I'm going in." I'm going, step off the ledge. And I'd write a letter, "I'm going to say this." And he'd say, just send it to me instead. So, you know, we really have become a team. And he said something really that was extraordinary. You know, he said we're 2 years in and it feels like we've just started.
Wow.
And to me, that's what I want for all of you. I want you to find those relationships in your career. If tarot is your career, or reading, or being a practitioner, I want you to find those people that say, "I feel like we've just started."
Yeah.
And in some ways, Essie, you know, you and I have been through so much. I feel that way with Essie too. Like, we kept thinking, "Okay, we're finished. Okay, we're finished," and now we're getting this sense of like, we're just getting started. And so sometimes a relationship doesn't start to make sense until you're in it for 2 years.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, because you don't know what it means. And so sometimes I think it's really important, you know, if you have that feeling and that instinct that this is something that I should hold on to, do that until you know. Because somebody said to me the other day, "I don't know, should I leave this person?" And I said, if you're not 100%, don't leave. It's different if they're beating you, that's a different conversation. I'm thinking of that, you know, because there's somebody who's going to write me and go, "Well, wait a minute, I'm being abused and I'm not sure if I should leave." Well, that's different, okay?
Yeah.
I'm talking about if you're waffling, just be with yourself until you know. So Chris was extraordinary. If you want to find out what an agent does,
it's great for people who are interested in the business side of things, because it is a big part of this industry. So it's very interesting to hear what people like him have to say.
And I'm glad you're saying this, Essie, because you're bringing up something for me. You know, Mel said it, Joe said it, and so did Chris. All of our behind-the-scenes people said, this is an industry.
Yeah.
This is a business. You know, so while you're looking at your gift of your, you know, you want to get your deck done, or you want to write a book, or you want to be published, you know, it's one of those things where it's a business. So make sure that when you enter that door, you're forming those relationships. And you'll hear why I passed up offering my deck to a particular publisher in the interview with Chris. And you'll hear how we both feel about how to approach publishers, which I think made it a very good interview. It was a fabulous interview. It was really, really, and I don't even want to say interview because it was a chat.
Yeah.
You know, even Colette and I
insightful chat.
Thank you. Yes. Okay.
And then we have who I like to call an up and comer, Lyn Thurman.
Lyn Thurman actually reviewed my deck, Chakra Wisdom cards. She was one of the first people to review it.
Yeah.
About a year and a half ago now. Well, yeah, about a year and a half ago. And she herself is a reader, and she had a deck. And so as I was interviewing her, one of the things that really came forward, because we thought we were going to be talking about goddess, you know, because that's a lot of her work. But as a newer person, what I found with Lyn was that she was still trying to like find the words to describe the work she's doing. You know, that takes time, because I think you can know what you're doing, but then how do you deliver the material is another thing. She has a really cool deck that she's just done, which you'll be able to get from her. She has it on her page. And it's a deck related to the sea and water. And I was trying to elicit questions from her, and then pretty soon it became me sharing with her what I thought she should do to make her deck successful. Now that in itself is about being in the moment, right? Because I thought she was just going to talk about goddess and all this, but it ended up me being saying, Lyn, maybe you should try this or this with your deck and try to promote it this way and do this. And she was like, oh, great. So it became about people in my community, giving them ideas of what they can do.
That concept of community came up. That's
and helping people, of
that,
what that is.
And what you can share when you're open.
And I think it's about giving people a hand up. I think that we're giving people a hand up. I know that certainly I felt that way with Colette. She was very generous with her time. And I feel like, that was the way I felt with Lyn. I was able to give her a hand up because she is an extraordinary reader and she loves being in touch with her tribe. So if you get a chance, be in touch with Lyn.
And then, so now we're on the final day.
Wow.
Day 4.
Okay, we're almost done.
So Bridget of Biddy Tarot.
Well, Bridget, I've been following for years.
We've worked with her a bit in the past, and she was always fantastic.
Very, very true to her word. A woman who is dedicated to the tarot and teaching it. She was actually it's a very interesting thing. She was the very, 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 very first interview I did before we even knew what we were doing. Because she was going away, so we had to get that in the can. And it became a very interesting thing about her reading for me. She did a reading for me. And I think you'll find that because her reading is 4 months old, right? It's actually the oldest of all of them. It's almost 4 months old. Because most of these are pretty current. They're very current.
We did them relatively
within the same time frame. And hers was so old. Now, when I say old, what I think is great about that is you'll see how her predictions actually are syncing up with some of the newer predictions that people made for me in the summit. So you'll see how accurate it was. And we collaborated. Because she'd say a reading and I'd say, well, Bridget, how about this? And she'd say, oh my gosh, yeah. So it was a really fun experience, and also just, she's an extraordinary teacher, and I just love her as a person. I had contacted her, about a year and a half ago, and I just said, can we Skype and meet? She said, sure. And we met and we collaborated and on our different events. And that's how she ended up in the summit. She's wonderful.
And what's great about her too is that she's really good at connecting with the younger generation and using YouTube and connecting with millennials. So she's someone that's great to kind of pay attention to if you are interested.
Absolutely.
In this type of thing.
Absolutely. She was fantastic for that.
And then we have another person who's good at connecting with the millennials is Daily Tarot Girl, Kate.
I can't even remember. I think I was surfing the web one night and I came across her YouTube stuff and I thought, this girl is great. And I contacted her and I forget what it was. No, I followed her on Twitter or something. I know what it was. I sent a message on Twitter. See, social media.
And I think she responded.
She did, and she said, "Oh my gosh, she said, let's do an interview." So she interviewed me, which is on my Facebook page, by the way. It's on the Chakra Wisdom Facebook page if you scroll down, and it was a phenomenal interview. And I remembered her and I liked her so much, and I thought, so many people, this is interesting too, if you remember, so many people then came over to take my Life Purpose Divination course from my connection with that interview. And I asked every one of them, how'd you find out about me? Oh, Tarot Girl Kate, she's fabulous. And I thought, she has such a great reputation, I wanted to have her on. She talked about coaching, she talked about coaching with tarot. One thing I want to bring up to all of you is that she talked about a course that's coming up recently, recent. It's actually delayed a few months, which is going to be better for those of you who are interested. She'll be teaching, I think, in the spring about coaching in tarot. So you'll get a chance on her page to click through and get on her mailing list and find out more about that.
And then there's Michelle Patterson, who I think I found Michelle.
You did, and we couldn't find her name, remember? Because she goes under her title.
Angel Souls.
Angel Souls. So that was kind of like, how am I going to find this woman? And then she was fantastic.
She's got a great following on YouTube. She's really connecting with people.
And not only that, she loves reading. She loves teaching reading. because you know my dogs are always around. Frank's walking out. She was really a surprise too. I felt that she brought a lot to the idea of the angels and tarot. And that's something I forgot to say about Dax too, is Dax Carlisle talked a lot about how the angels are in every tarot card and how to see them. So that was interesting. But Michelle was like, she was such a breath of fresh air, and she was so excited to be doing this, and she gave a lot of card reading tips, which I thought was great. More importantly, if I had to put together Tarot Girl Kate and Bridget and Michelle and even Lyn, I would say their biggest focus all of them have is giving the power back to the person being read. Back to the idea of a collaboration. It's not like, you know, some kind of, I'm going to give you, you know, I'm going to be this omnipotent person who has this info. It's more like, hey, we're collaborating, what are you seeing? So Michelle talked about how she showed people what to see. And she's a very direct New Yorker, so she was great. She was a lot of fun. If you get a chance to watch her interview, that's fantastic. And also her YouTube channel is on there too.
And I also, correct me if I'm wrong, because I may have forgotten, but I believe she's specifically trained under a lot of Doreen Virtue's work.
Oh yeah, she is. She did a lot of Doreen Virtue's training, so she had a lot of background in angel card readings and great insight. Of course, Doreen is fantastic, so you know there was some amazing information that came through Michelle as well. So that was great, and she talked about Doreen's deck, one of them in particular, and she did a little reading with me on it, and we did some predictions for the people watching. So that was fun.
That's good. And then last but not least,
Stewart Pearce. Now, Stewart, interestingly, of course, you know, this booming voice, you know, and he was raised in the royal castle. I mean, he was, you know, raised as a child in the UK. And he is extraordinary. There were so many moments when I go, Stewart, and I'd have to ask a question because he starts going. But he was really talking about the angels, talking about the power of them, talking about how they came through the cards, how to read his angel oracle decks, which were amazing because he would say something, hold the card up and say, this is what I'm seeing with this. So there was a lot in his story. And also the other thing that I really enjoyed with him was, of course, he started in the theater. He's coached people with their voice, right? Sound,
yeah.
So he does a lot of work with sound, and some of you know I had a recording studio. So that was another thing that was really interesting for us because my father was in the theater, so we talked about that. And I think it was, you know, one of the things that Stewart really brought forward was the idea of working with the masters and trusting that. Trusting that we all hear it, but we drown it out. And he talked about using sound and finding that resonance in yourself. And I know this is a keynote, isn't it? We really covered every single person. And you know, I want to say one of the things that happens in a summit, and I think it happened here for me, and I think it happens in a reading, is sometimes the person doing the reading is the one who gets the best gift. So I find that I really learn from all these people because I was a sponge, you know, I was allowed to be a beginner again and ask questions. And sometimes it was dialogue, and sometimes I was, you know, like with Lyn, it was fabulous. I got to give her some suggestions. So I think what you'll find in this entire, I want to say, festival that we created, that Essie and I created, because we called it IF, Intuitive Festival, because I wanted you to think of what if. You know, what if your intuition is constantly a festival of light for you? What if this is a happy journey we can all take together? What if every single person that you see on this telesummit, if your goal is to someday be one of them, there's nothing that's going to stop you.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. And I want to say that, like, I really enjoyed working with people who are new and people who are more advanced, because that's what this community's about. You know, Colette and I talked about that it's not like, well, I'm here and you're here. It's about, hey, let me tell you something. When times get hard, we're all in the same boat. You know, it's like that great Martin Luther King quote about, we may have arrived on different ships, but we're all on the same boat now.
Yeah.
And there were just some extraordinary experiences with everybody. And so, What else do we need to say, Essie? I feel like...
I think we covered everything. I think it's great that, as you can see from everything she said, all the people she spoke about, it's all jam-packed into 4 days, and you're going to get to hear what really happened and all the things she just described.
So all I can hope is that you're in a climate where there's, you know, some cold weather, so you can grab a hot toddy or a nice hot chocolate and sit by the fire and watch all of these, because I have to tell you, it is going to uplift your spirit. It is an extraordinary experience. I know it uplifted mine, and that's why I'm excited to share it all with you for free. You'll have an opportunity to watch every single one of them free.
Yeah.
You can buy it after, you can buy it and you can buy it during. The price is extraordinary.
Yeah, I should also remind them that they should check your email every day. The schedule, although we gave you the schedule, your email will give you the links to all the interviews happening that day.
Okay.
And every interview is available until midnight of that day, so make sure you're...
watch it that day or you'll miss it. And then one other thing...
Pacific time.
Pacific. And then one other thing I want to mention that I'm glad that you brought that up is that we decided that I would put together a virtual retreat day for the Chakra Wisdom cards, just with me. It will be early January to kick off your year, and then I'm going to be teaching a Chakra Wisdom course as well. But take that, because that will be extraordinary to work, and it's going to be interactive, so you'll get to, I break people into groups, so you'll be able to, it's virtual, but you'll be able to be in private groups and you'll be able to practice readings.
And test all the new techniques that they would have learned.
Oh gosh,
in the summit. So you'll get all the recordings, along with that special day with Tori.
And this is actually, everybody, as you're watching this is the last time in a hopefully not too long a time that Essie and I will be in the same room together.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm moving and she's going to stay here. And one of the things Chris said to me today, he says, "You're going to still work with Essie," and I said, "As long as she'll have me." So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
And if you get a chance, it's SCESI@ToriHartman.com, and you can send her a thank you for this, because she has done an extraordinary job. Thank you, Essie.
Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful experience, and thank you for bringing this experience to everybody. So you'll tune in. Bye. Enjoy the summit.